The anime begins in 1830 with a girl screaming as she's being beaten. She pleads for help from a boy named Jinta, who watches helplessly, saddened by the scene. The man, revealed to be her father, locks her in a confined space despite her pleas. Afterward, Jinta checks on his sister and discovers she has escaped. He rushes to find her and sees her near a walkway. He notices that one of her eyes has turned red. Jinta apologizes for not helping earlier, but Suzune reassures him, understanding he would have gotten into trouble. She asks him to leave her alone, but Jinta refuses, saying they'll run away together. Suzune is relieved and agrees. They flee into the forest, where the weather is cold. A strange man appears and helps them. Jinta, exhausted, passes out and later wakes to find the man carrying him, with Suzune beside him. They arrive at a village, which turns out to be a blacksmith settlement. Suzune feels uneasy, saying the place seems strange. The man takes them home, where his daughter greets them warmly. Jinta and Suzune feel a sense of loss, seeing such a welcoming family. The man tells his daughter that the two have no one, so they will become part of their family. His daughter, Shirayuki, is overjoyed and introduces herself. When Jinta calls her Shirayuki-chan, she tells him not to say that since they're family now. Jinta is surprised by this new life. That night, Jinta wakes up and finds the man cleaning a sword. He asks if he's a samurai, but the man replies, "No, I'm a guard who protects important people." Jinta is amazed by his sword. The next morning, Shirayuki joins Jinta, Suzune, and their new friend for a swim. Afterward, Chitose teases Shirayuki for eating too much dango and tells her to eat more vegetables. Shirayuki replies that she can't resist her mother's dango because she's so good at making it. Chitose goes to call her mom and the others head home. Jinta asks Shirayuki about her mother. She says her name is Yokaz and that she likely allowed them to stay in the village. Jinta asks if she ever leaves the temple, and Shirayuki says no because her mother is a Kaheim, a sacred priestess, someone with fire-based spiritual power. Her father serves as her protector. She explains that this power must be preserved and not used carelessly, especially around ordinary people. Shirayuki admits she hasn't seen her mother in years and feels sad about it. 3 years pass. Jinta begins training with Shirayuki's father in wooden sword fighting, but loses repeatedly. He says, "I haven't made any progress," but Shirayuki's father encourages him, saying his strength is developing. He promises Jinta will grow stronger with time, but must stay focused. As he leaves for work, Shirayuki hands him the sword he forgot, and they all say goodbye. Shirayuki checks on Jinta and encourages him, calling herself his big sister. Jinta laughs, saying he's older, but Shirayuki insists she's the most organized, so she counts as the elder. Just then, Suzune wakes up and asks what's going on. Jinta says it's nothing, and Shirayuki announces it's time for breakfast. Both girls reach out to Jinta, playfully dragging him along. After Shirayuki's father Mataharu dies, Jinta becomes the village's protector. During a temple meeting, the current lady of the temple praises him, saying he's exceptional at slaying demons. Jinta humbly replies that he's just doing his duty. The lady asks about the latest demon, and Jinta explains that it disguised itself as a human to infiltrate the village. The head of the guard says the demon aimed to eliminate the lady of the temple. He explains that demons can live for thousands of years, but if they eat the liver of the Kaheim, they become immortal. One of the guards says, "We haven't confirmed the existence of this demon, and we can't verify this talk." The head guard responds that it doesn't matter, and explains that the previous lady of the temple, Yaques, was killed by a demon. They only managed to defeat it because Mataharu sacrificed his life. The current lady of the temple believes the demons are after the sword Yara, a sacred blade passed down through generations. The head guard adds that the sword was crafted with immense skill in this town, and is believed to hold magical power, katana, that has remained untouched for a century. Now, the demons seek to obtain that power. The lady agrees and acknowledges his point. Guard Kayamasa tells the head guard there's no need to worry, as the Kaheim has 2 guards to protect her. He also insults Ginta, claiming the man has no talent beyond swinging a sword. Ginta asks him, "Do you have a problem with me?" The lady of the temple intervenes, saying, "This place deserves respect. Such petty disputes don't belong here." Ginta apologizes, and she turns to Kayamasa, asking, "Aren't you a guard too?" He answers, "Of course, I'm here to protect you." The head guard ends the meeting, and everyone leaves except Ginta, which angers Kayamasa. The lady of the temple asks Ginta if he's alone outside, and he confirms. She tells him to drop the formalities and walks toward him, which surprises him. She reminds him, "I told you before to treat me informally." Ginta replies, "But you're the lady of the temple, and I respect you." She insists, "Then I ask you, when we're alone, to call me by my name. You're the only one left who can." Ginta calls her Shiryuki, causing her to blush. She admits she's being selfish because she relies on him for everything. Ginta tells her it's not a problem, reminding her that the Kaheim is supposed to rely on her guard. Shiryuki thanks him and informs him that Suzune is here, waiting to see him. Ginta visits Suzune, who was asleep. He warns her that if anyone finds out she's here, she could be executed due to the temple's rules. Shiryuki explains that Suzune came because Ginta hadn't returned home for 3 days while fighting demons. Ginta replies that her visit still breaks the rules. He gently wakes Suzune and tells her he misses her, but she must never come to the temple again, it's forbidden. Suzune asks, "Then why can you come here whenever you want?" Ginta answers, "Because those are the rules and we must follow them." Suzune agrees quietly. Ginta then senses someone coming and tells her to stay silent. She assures him she knows a way out and quickly leaves. The head guard approaches Shiryuki and asks to speak with her about some suggestions. She invites him in but tells Ginta to wait outside. Ginta protests, not wanting to leave her alone, but Shiryuki insists. As he waits, she tells him that the safety of the city now lies in his hands, and she hopes he'll keep defending it with all his strength. Ginta reflects on the past, remembering when Shiryuki's mother passed away. Shiryuki told him she would be appointed the new princess in her mother's place. She expressed her love for the city. Her mother sacrificed everything to protect and said it must remain strong. She added that she hadn't seen Ginta since then. Ginta promised her, "I'll keep working until I see you again. I'll grow stronger, follow in Mataharu's footsteps, fight the demons, and become the village's guardian." Returning to the present, he leaves the princess's room. Meanwhile, 2 demons talk. One asks how things are progressing. The other, observing Suzune, replies that things seem fine, even if no one believes it, but he saw it with his own eyes. He's certain she looks exactly like the one he remembers. Back at Ginta's home, he wakes up and steps out of his room. Suzune also wakes and asks if he's going to the temple. Ginta tells her he's free until noon, which makes her happy. She hugs him, and Ginta mentions that the bandages covering her eye are coming loose. Suzune adjusts them to hide her red eye. Shiryuki suddenly arrives, surprising Ginta. He asks how she got there, and she says she ran away and invites him to spend the day with her. Ginta declines, saying it's dangerous since she's a princess. Shiryuki explains she got permission from the chief. Suzune then suggests they all have breakfast together like they used to. The 3 of them sit down and share a meal. Suzune commented that Ginta should have brought better food for Share. Ginta warned her to be quiet or he'd hit her. Share laughed and said they all knew he had never hit Suzune. Ginta insisted he was strict when necessary and could be harsh too. But Share doubted that, and Suzune agreed, saying he wasn't like that at all. Ginta joked, "You both want trouble, ha," which made them all burst into laughter. Suzune challenged him to go ahead and hit her. Ginta raised his hand toward her, but couldn't bring himself to do it. He told her he'd let her go this time, which made them laugh again. Ginta got ready to go out with Shir, and Suzune was overjoyed. He asked why she was so happy. She replied it was because he was going out with the princess to have fun, and if he was happy, that made her happy too. As Ginta walked with Shir, no one recognized her as the princess. People were surprised to see Ginta with such a beautiful girl. They went to Chizu's mother to buy dango. She was surprised and asked Ginta who the girl was. Ginta replied she was just a friend. Shir asked for 10 servings of dango, but Ginta said they'd only get 2 and some tea, which shocked her. Shir then asked if Chizu's mother didn't recognize her. Ginta explained that she hadn't seen her in years and likely didn't remember her. Shir said she had expected that. Chizu's mother prepared the food and even added sweets, saying she remembered Ginta always loving them as a kid. Surprised, Ginta asked, "You still remember that?" She replied, "Of course. You always came here asking for them when you were little." She apologized for calling him that, but Ginta assured her it was fine. He tried the sweets and said they were delicious, which made Chizu's mother very happy. Afterward, Ginta told Shir he was no longer her big brother, he was now the city's guard. Shir replied, "I know, nothing lasts forever." She added that it was one of her father's favorite sayings. Ginta reflected on how his father always taught him important life lessons, and how he still felt guided by him every step of the way. He said he wanted to stay on that path. Sheer said, I hope we become like my mom and dad and protect the city the way they did. They then visited their favorite spot where they used to meet. Sheer thanked Ginta for spending the day with her. Ginta told her he had a wonderful time, which made her happy. But she also admitted feeling guilty for focusing only on her problems and dragging him into them. Ginta asked if she felt satisfied now. She said yes, and then revealed she had brought him there because she wanted to share something important. She told Ginta she was going to marry Kayamasa. The village leader had informed her the day before. She explained she needed to bear a successor so she wouldn't repeat her mother's fate. Kayamasa, a guard born in the city, was expected to become the next chief, and their marriage would be good for everyone. Though she leaned toward accepting it, she confessed that, speaking as Sheer, not as a princess, she loved Ginta. She told him she had once thought about running away with him to start a new life, but figured he wouldn't agree. Ginta confirmed he would have refused. Sheer said it was because he didn't love her. Ginta clarified that he had sworn to protect the city and the princess, not Sheer. He had trained hard for that, and if he ran away with her, it would make all his training meaningless and be an insult to himself. Sheer said they were very similar. When everything ends, people can only choose how to live, not who to live with. She chose to remain a princess, and if she abandoned that identity, she wouldn't be able to look him in the eye. If her role was wrong, so were her feelings for him. So she would continue to live as a princess, and asked him to stay loyal and love her until the end. Ginta promised he would stay her guard and protect her to the very end. We then shift to Suzune, who was alone and feeling anxious. At the temple, Sheer informed Ginta that 2 demons had been spotted in the forest and ordered him to eliminate them. Kayamasa would protect her while he was gone. Ginta replied, "All right, I'll take care of them as soon as possible." Sheer wished him good luck. After leaving the temple, Ginta was stopped by Kayamasa, who asked if he had heard the news about his marriage to the princess. Ginta calmly replied that he had. Kayamasa questioned whether Ginta was really not going to do anything, but Ginta said that protecting the city and the princess's happiness was what mattered most to him. Kayamasa accused him of pretending not to love her and demanded, "What about your heart? Are you crazy, man?" Ginta simply answered, "Of course I am," and walked away, leaving Kayamasa stunned. Meanwhile, Suzune was alone when a demon approached her. The scene shifted to Ginta, who was deep in the forest searching for the demons when he was suddenly attacked. The demon, surprised that Ginta dodged, asked how he saw through the ambush. Ginta responded, "I know there are 2 of you. Where's the other one?" The demon said the other had an important task in the city. Ginta struck first, but missed. The demon counterattacked, injuring Ginta's face. Ginta retaliated and managed to sever the demon's hand, though it struck again with the other, which Ginta dodged. Holding its severed hand, the demon remarked that while demons live for centuries, humans surpass themselves by passing their dreams forward. It then asked Ginta, "Do you know why you use that sword?" It claimed to have defied nature to gain its power. Ginta responded that he would kill anyone who threatened those he loved. Back with Suzune, the other demon approached her, asking if she knew who she was. Suzune said the demon was the demon itself. It agreed but said they were alike. Suzune denied it, claiming she was human and trembling with fear. The demon said sisterly love was what made her feel human and admired how much her brother had fought for her. It asked if she thought her brother was great, and Suzune replied that he meant everything to her. The demon then said it saw a young girl in her heart and warned that someone wanted to harm her brother. It offered to help and claimed demons never lie. It reached out its hand, asking her to come with it. Suzune refused, saying it might endanger her brother. The demon then said, "Will you still say that after seeing this?" and showed her a glimpse of the future, Sherry marrying Kayamasa. The demon claimed to have foresight, allowing it to share brief visions of the future. Suzune called it outside, saying she didn't want to know the truth. She asked if Sherry really did that, and the demon confirmed it. Suzune accused it of lying. The demon offered to show her again, and claimed it was all for her brother. Hesitantly, Suzune reached for the demon's hand. Meanwhile, Ginta continued fighting the other demon. He was pushed into the water and attacked from behind. Ginta asked, "Why do you want to hurt humans?" The demon replied, "Because of what I am." Ginta asked if that meant it naturally wanted to kill humans. The demon explained that it had a specific goal and accepted its nature. It couldn't rebel against what it was. Ginta said, "Then I'll show you no mercy." The demon revealed it could absorb power from other demons, growing stronger and changing form. Ginta attacked, but the demon cut off his arm and broke his sword. Still, Ginta grabbed the broken piece and drove it into the demon's body, killing it. Before dying, the demon said it had fulfilled its goal and revealed the other demon had powers of perception. It warned that after 170 years, the strongest demon would rise to rule over all demon offspring in the city. This was the reason they had come. Ginta, shocked, wondered if a demon was already living among them and thought of Suzune. The demon grabbed Ginta's head and said, "You wield the sword to protect those you vowed to defend. But if you find they are not worth protecting, who will you kill then?" The scene shifts to Princess Shirayuki, where Kayamasa tries to get close to her, but she pushes him away, saying they need to first confirm whether Ginta has defeated the demons. Kayamasa insists it's the right time to marry, warning that if they wait, they might have to wed in front of Ginta. He steps back and leaves the decision to her. The princess begins to cry, arguing that she was wrong and must marry Kayamasa now for the city's sake. As she moves toward him, a demon enters, accompanied by Suzune, who witnesses the scene and asks the princess why she's doing this. Meanwhile, Ginta regains consciousness and is shocked to find his severed arm still intact. Realizing something's wrong, he rushes toward the city, only to find it in flames. Back at the princess's location, Suzune confronts her. "I thought you loved Ginta, but I guess you're ready to settle for any guy, right?" The princess denies it, and Suzune demands an explanation. Ginta arrives home, but finds it empty. Grabbing his sword, he heads to the princess's house. There, Suzune continues, "Why did you do this? I worked hard to bring you two together because I wanted Ginta to be happy, and this is how you repay me." The princess responds, "I know you did it for Ginta, but to remain his little sister, you need to stay innocent in both body and mind." Suzune replies, "I used to believe in you. I was ready to endure everything for your sake." The princess says, "I'm sorry. I am the princess now, responsible for the entire city. That's the only way I can repay Ginta's feelings." Suzune asks, "So you're abandoning your love for my brother for strangers?" She removes her blindfold and starts laughing, accusing the princess of making her look like a fool. "Shut your mouth and don't move," she warns. The demon beside Suzune tells her, "Now you've seen it." While Ginta was fighting for her life in the forest, the princess embraced another man. "Isn't it painful to suffer without knowing the truth?" Then it adds, "Isn't it infuriating that your brother is getting hurt because of this deceitful princess?" Suzune mutters, "Wouldn't it be better if she were dead?" Suddenly, she transforms into a demon, shrouded in black smoke. "You must die now," she tells the princess. Kayamasa tries to stop her but is struck down by the demon, losing consciousness. The demon urges Suzune to resolve the matter herself. Suzune grabs the sword. At that moment, Ginta arrives. Shirayuki rushes to embrace him, but her head is severed in his arms, leaving him in shock as memories of their past flood in. He sees Suzune stab Shirayuki and, in rage, swings his sword at her, though she dodges. "Why are you attacking me?" she asks. "Are you really Suzune?" Ginta demands. She confirms she is. "Then why did you kill Shirayuki?" he asks. "I did it for you," she replies. "I wanted you to be happy. You should smile. How is that logical?" Ginta asks. "I'll explain. The princess was lying. She was going to marry someone else. I didn't want you to be sad," Suzune says. When Ginta tells her to be quiet, she snaps. "Don't tell me you still love her. She's a liar." She explains that now that Shirayuki is gone, Ginta won't feel pressured anymore and should go home because she's tired. "You killed Shirayuki, burned the city, betrayed the people who raised us, and now you expect me to believe you're tired," Ginta retorts. Suzune shrugs. "Is that a problem? I now understand. The Suzune I once knew is gone." Ginta attacks her again, but misses. She's shocked by his attempt to kill her. Then, Ginta transforms into a demon, gaining the powers of the one who had previously injured him. Seeing his transformation, Suzune tries to defend herself, saying she did it all for him. Ginta cuts her off, telling her to be silent. "So you're abandoning me like everyone else," she says. "I thought you were different. I thought you'd always be there." Then she says she doesn't need him, that he meant everything but didn't value her. "Fine, I'll go live in hell." She lunges at him, moving rapidly, then suddenly stops and says, "You must die." She thrusts her hands into his chest, but can't pull them out. Ginta unleashes a powerful blow, sending her flying. She rises again, and Ginta says, "That strike wasn't enough." He prepares another attack, but this time it hits the other demon. The clairvoyant demon tells Suzune to go far away. Then Suzune left, and Ginta tried to follow her, but he couldn't pull his hands out of the she-demon's body. He called out to Suzune, but she told him she didn't want to talk because she was angry, and that she would tear everything in this world to pieces. She said she would visit them again, and that would be her final visit. The she-demon laughed, saying she had achieved her goal. Ginta finally pulled his hands free and told her that they were only achieving their goals by shedding blood. The she-demon replied, "Of course, that's what we want." She claimed to have seen the future where demons couldn't keep up with how fast time changes. Darkness would drown the light made by humans who stole from their homes. In the end, demons would no longer be myths like in the past, and now she could die happy knowing she secured a future for her sisters. Then the sky rained, helping extinguish the fires. Afterward, Ginta picked up Shirayuki and lamented that despite all his training, he hadn't thought of protecting her. Angrily, he went home, packed his belongings, and decided to leave. He went to the captain of the guards, who asked where he was going. Ginta said he would leave the city to retrain and grow stronger to face the great demon when it attacked. The captain asked if he meant Suzune and if he really thought he could kill her. Ginta admitted he once loved Shirayuki and could only hate Suzune now. He said he must end things one way or another, and the darkness inside him urged him to kill her, but he needed a solution. The captain replied, "Now that you've become a demon, I thought killing was all you cared about, but there's still dignity in you." He handed Ginta a sword. Ginta drew it, and the captain said, "This makes you a Rei. You must follow the rules and traditions." He added Kaji to his name, making him Ginta Kaji. Ginta said he shouldn't carry the sword, but the captain responded, "No one from the Atsukaman family is left. Leaving this sword to rot in darkness is pointless. It belongs in your hands. I believe the princess would find peace in death if this sword were with you." He then apologized to Ginta, knowing about his love for the princess. He admitted that he once told her to marry Kayamasa for the city's sake, not realizing Kayamasa had feelings for her. The captain only wanted his son's happiness, but the tragedy weighed heavily on him. Ginta then left, and Shiozi's mother came to him in tears. "Are you really leaving?" she asked, saying she'd always remember him. The scene then shifts to the year 1850 in the city of Soea. A man named Zenji, deputy to the village chief, met the chief and Ginta. Upon seeing Ginta, Zenji asked, "Is this the man?" The chief replied, "Of course. Now go with him and tell him everything." The chief left, and Zenji asked Ginta if he had been told the full story. Ginta replied, "The chief told me he has a daughter and that a demon wants to kidnap her." Zenji said that wasn't all. The chief's daughter, Natsu, was 13 and spoiled. The night before, she had seen a demon outside her window trying to kidnap her and heard it say, "Return my daughter to me." Ginta was shocked. Zenji explained that the demon had a daughter who looked like Natsu, which was why it tried to take her. Natsu then arrived and scolded Zenji, threatening to tell her father if he kept slacking off. When she met Ginta, she asked, "Are you the one who came to protect me? If so, please leave. You look too young." Zenji tried to calm her, but Natsu said Ginta must have come for money and would leave later. She claimed this was just an opportunity for him. Zenji reminded her that her father had chosen Ginta, believing in his skills, but Natsu told him to shut up. She said she hated having a samurai without a lord as a personal guard, so they wouldn't pay him, and he should go back where he came from. Then she stormed off. Zenji turned to Ginta and said, "What an embarrassing family. They're not social at all." He apologized. Later that night, Zenji entered Natsu's room. She was surprised and asked why he came. Zenji replied, "Since you dismissed the new guard, I'll be protecting you instead, just in case something bad happens." Natsu, annoyed, asked if he thought she was lying. She said even her father didn't believe her, which is why he hired a suspicious samurai. Zenji said, "I think you're wrong about your father. I believe the chief genuinely cares about you. You've always been his top concern." Natsu replied, "But you know I'm not really his daughter." Suddenly, Natsu heard the demon's voice and began to panic, pleading with Zenji for help. Concerned, Zenji asked, "What's wrong?" At that moment, the demon appeared in front of Zenji, moving closer while repeatedly saying, "Return my daughter to me." As the demon reached for Zenji, Ginta struck, cutting off its hands. Ginta asked for the demon's name, but it kept repeating the same phrase. Ginta landed another blow, eliminating the demon completely. He turned to Natsu and asked, "What payment do I deserve for my expertise?" Natsu asked, "Did the demon die?" Ginta replied, "When a demon dies, white smoke appears. That's how I know it's dead. And yes, I've seen this before, but I'll return again." The next morning, Ginta and Zenji went to Zenji's house. Zenji thanked Ginta for saving him and said, "You delayed the demon, but it will return. please stay with us again tonight? Ginto agreed and asked Zenji to tell him more about Natsu, especially because of what the demon had said. Zenji explained, Natsu isn't the chief's biological daughter. She was born to a man and woman from the chief's family, but both died. Still, don't worry, she isn't from a demon lineage. If she were, the chief would never have adopted her. His wife was killed by a demon, and his son fled and never returned. The chief blames demons for everything that destroyed his family. So why would he take in Natsu if she were related to demons? Later that night, Natsu and the chief were having dinner. The chief asked, is everything alright with the new guards? Natsu replied, everything's fine. Thank you for caring about me. The chief said, what kind of father wouldn't care about his daughter? Natsu then asked, why did you choose that guard? The chief explained, lately, there have been demons sighted near Ito. At the same time, there were reports of a man who confronts and kills demons with a single blow. Natsu asked, are you talking about that samurai? The chief confirmed, yes, he kills any demon if he's paid. I chose him because I trust him. I thought it was best to make him your personal guard. Natsu asked, so you believed me about the demon? The next morning, outside her room, Natsu reflected that scary stories come in many forms, from direct tales to folk legends, but they never truly disappear. She remembered a servant once talking about the chief's son being kidnapped and his wife dying because of demons. He had adopted a girl while waiting for his son's return. This made her uneasy. Back in her room, feeling afraid, Natsu opened the door and saw Zenji. Why are you here? She asked. Zenji replied, I'm waiting for my chance to redeem myself for yesterday. Natsu coldly said, I don't care about that. Zenji asked, is there no place in your heart to forgive me? Natsu replied, maybe, but you'll have to take me somewhere nice first. Zenji smiled and said, alright, I'll take you somewhere wonderful. Natsu then asked Ginta his name. She told him, my dad trusts you a lot. I think I'll trust you too. Ginta responded, you love your father a lot, Natsu. She smiled and said, of course. He adopted me and gave me a home. Why wouldn't I love him? Ginta replied, a small, happy family, and added, I really think the chief cares about you. That brought a smile to Natsu's face. When Ginta mentioned the chief's lost daughter, Natsu cut him off, saying she knew nothing about her and got angry. Ginta said, I think I touched a sensitive chord. Natsu asked, is it possible for a demon and a human to have a child together? Ginta replied, of course. Natsu worried, then I could belong to that demon who appeared. Ginta reassured her, that demon is not your father. Natsu asked, how do you know that? Ginta said, I know who that demon is. We have a long history. I'm sure he never had a child like you. Natsu asked, is that really true? Ginta answered, I'm not lying to you. Ginta then asked Zenji, do you know how demons are born? Zenji said, isn't it obvious? Like humans, from their parents. Or am I wrong? Ginta explained, there are many ways demons are born. The usual way is through two demons having a child, but some are born when demons force themselves on humans for their own pleasure. Some demons are born from nothing, manifesting from pure emotions, especially dark ones like bitterness, anger, jealousy, sorrow, and obsession. These feelings slowly seep into a person, settle deep within, and eventually congeal into a physical form. Ginta explained that such demons are essentially emotions wrapped in flesh. While he spoke, Natsu grew frightened. Suddenly, the demon appeared again. Ginta approached it and asked, what is your name? Then he attacked the demon, striking it multiple times and knocking it to the ground. He turned to Natsu and asked, do you want me to kill it? He explained that her emotions had summoned the demon. It was a result of her desires. The chaos it brought made her father pay more attention to her. Ginta said, you wanted to be treated like a real daughter, and then this demon appeared, saying the things no one dared to. Isn't that what you truly wished for? Natsu, pained, said, please stop, trying to quiet the voice in her head. Ginta remarked, this demon will return even after I kill it. It won't disappear for good until you control your emotions. Natsu asked, but how? I don't know how. Ginta replied that it was simple. She just had to ask him to kill it. Natsu reflected on how she'd ignored things she didn't want to see and feared showing weakness. Deep down, she just wanted to be loved. She imagined her father appreciating her if a demon appeared, calling her a queen. Those ugly emotions had now taken form. The demon was her, and the one who needed to be destroyed was also her. Zenji comforted her, saying, the only thing that needs to be killed is the demon, not you, my lady. Even if it was created from your emotions, that doesn't matter. He held her hand and told her to trust him. He assured her that both she and the boss cared deeply for each other, but neither knew how to express it. What they needed was honesty honest communication, like a real family. Natsu asked Ginta to kill the demon. Ginta faced the creature and unleashed a powerful attack that sliced it in half. Zenji, seeing white smoke, asked, "Is it dead this time?" Ginta confirmed, "Of course it's dead." Afterward, Natsu fell asleep and Ginta waited outside her room. But the demon reappeared, muttering that he had expected this outcome. He said this demon wasn't born solely from Natsu's emotions. Other princes in the country also held the potential to become demons. He recalled Zenji's mention of the boss's wife, who had been killed by a demon. That's why the creature had said, "Return my wife and daughter." Ginta realized the demon referred to the child born to the boss's wife, Shizune. He hadn't expected this reunion and told the demon he remembered him clearly. Again, he asked the demon's name, but it only repeated, "Return my daughter to me." Ginta responded, "People should live in the present, not be trapped in the past." With that, he struck the demon again, releasing white smoke. Later, Ginta visited Zenji's house. Zenji thanked him, and Natsu, though still adjusting, expressed her gratitude. Ginta said, "Don't thank me. This wasn't a job, it was paying off a debt." He told her that age doesn't make someone an adult, but time gives people perspective. He recalled how, in his youth, his worldview was narrow. He understood that causing harm was wrong, but he hadn't seen what was hidden beneath people's actions. At the time, he could only run away. Now, he wanted to atone. Natsu admitted she didn't fully understand him. Ginta told her to show her father the same kindness he showed her. "That's all it takes," he said. Natsu replied she didn't need him to tell her that. Ginta then said his goodbyes and left. Afterward, the boss joined Zenji and Natsu. "Did Ginta leave?" he asked. Zenji replied, "Of course he did. But, boss, you should have come to say goodbye." The boss said it wasn't necessary. He had known from the start that Ginta would complete the mission. When Zenji asked why he trusted him so much, the boss replied, "Don't ask stupid questions. Any respectable father trusts his son." He then told Zenji to get to work or his salary would be deducted. Zenji immediately agreed, not wanting that to happen. Natsu asked her father, "Is there anything I can help you with?" Surprised, the boss asked, "What's with this change?" Natsu replied, "They asked me to return the kindness you've shown me." The boss smiled and said, "That's a great kindness from you, but don't worry anymore. The best way for children to repay their parents is to live long. That's all I want. I just want you to be happy." After that, he left, and Natsu followed him to help. Ginta went to a restaurant where the manager prepared the food and his daughter, Offie, worked with him. He asked Offie to bring the food to Ginta, and she did. Afterward, Offie's father approached Ginta and told him there was a killer lurking in the streets. He was very anxious about his daughter's safety and hoped the emperor would take action. Ginta advised him to be careful about what he said regarding the emperor. Offie's father agreed, saying he didn't want to lose the restaurant, especially since he had acquired it just 10 days prior at a low price from the previous owner. Ginta wasn't surprised. Offie's father complimented Ginta's refined taste, noting his place resembled a ghost town and that Ginta had been coming there for 5 consecutive days. Offie told her father he would lose their only customer, but her father reassured her they were just talking. He then asked Ginta his opinion on the food. Ginta replied it wasn't bad, just small in quantity. Offie's father praised his honesty, stating the best chef in the city made it. Ginta inquired why they started working. Offie's father said everyone had their reasons, remarking that the past hadn't been kind to Ginta, who confirmed this. Offie's father believed Ginta had enough money, but Ginta responded he was working to earn it. Offie's father asked about Ginta's profession, and Ginta replied he was a demon hunter, which made Offie's father laugh. He asked if Ginta was heading to Edo now, and Ginta confirmed. As Ginta left, Offie's father reminded him about the killer, noting rumors that the killer never used a sword, yet all victims were mutilated, and the number of corpses was suspicious. He informed Ginta that many people had gone missing recently concerning the discovered bodies, suggesting they might have been attacked or taken away, and everyone believed demons were responsible. Ginta asked Offie's father where this killer was, and he replied the killer was in the Edo area. Offie approached Ginta and warned him that stealthy killers and demons were very scary, urging him to be cautious in the dangerous streets. Ginta replied he was old enough for lectures about going out at night. Offie retorted that his tough demeanor just proved he was still a child. Afterward, Ginta moved to the Shirishi Bridge, hoping the killer would appear that day, but realizing wishes don't always come true. As he began to move, he heard a scream and rushed to find a group of dead men. He noted they were men, and he had heard a woman's voice afterward. Suddenly, the killer attacked him, injuring him. The killer tried to strike again, but Ginta parried. However, the killer managed to stab Jinta in the back and ran away. Jinta, intrigued by the killer's power, hoped for more attacks, saying he was ready and harnessing the demon's power within him. The killer launched another attack, but Jinta broke his sword and aimed to strike, though it missed. Jinta encouraged the killer to try again. The killer told him to wait and revealed himself, saying, "I'm called Musuki." Jinta said he would remember the name and that Musuki should prepare for death. Musuki replied he had no intention of fighting Jinta, which Jinta found amusing, as he had gotten the opposite impression. Musuki explained he had thought Jinta was the killer, as rumors spread that whoever did it was a demon, so he had followed a demonic scent until encountering Jinta. When Jinta called him a killer, Musuki realized Jinta wasn't the one. Jinta asked why a demon would hunt serial killers. Musuki suggested they talk elsewhere before someone saw them. They moved to Musuki's house, and Musuki offered Jinta a drink, assuring him it wasn't poisoned. Jinta quipped that even if it were, it wouldn't kill him. Musuki explained that demons, when they mature, choose to appear as humans and live among society, adding that demons don't lie but they disappear. Musuki claimed he lived in the simple house. Jinta told him he was a demon with a unique power. Musuki explained his power was invisibility, and that he was a high-ranking demon who had lived for 100 years. Jinta commented that he seemed weak, but Musuki retorted that their rank was based on awakened power, not physical strength, and some high-ranking demons could be slow and weak, which he believed he was. Jinta asked if Musuki wasn't a serial killer, and Musuki confirmed he wasn't, with Jinta affirming he wasn't either, adding that he would believe Musuki. Musuki expressed his appreciation and thanked him. Jinta asked why Musuki had attacked him without a word when he thought Jinta was the serial killer. Musuki asked if Jinta had heard of disappearance cases. Jinta acknowledged knowing the number of victims didn't match the missing people, and mentioned hearing a woman scream, but seeing no body. Musuki confirmed this, saying the killer only targeted men and kidnapped women. Jinta asked how Musuki could be sure. Musuki revealed that the killer had kidnapped his wife Hatsuo about a month ago. She had been with him despite him being a demon, yet she disappeared without a trace. 10 days later, he found her body by the river. The officer he spoke to mentioned she had been horrifically raped. Hatsuo was beloved, and he knew she didn't deserve such a death. He told Jinta he lived as a human not for society, but for his wife, harboring great hatred for the monster who did this and took her life. He wanted revenge, which was why he asked Jinta to stay away. Jinta replied he couldn't because killing demons was his job. Musuki then suggested they collaborate, gathering information independently, but asked Jinta to let him be the one to end the killer. Jinta asked if Musuki sought revenge, and Musuki confirmed without a doubt. Jinta said that regardless of whether the killer was demon or human, they needed to bear the burden of taking a life, and he asked if Musuki was ready for that. Musuki replied that demons don't lie, not even to themselves. Jinta said, "Okay, let's work together." Afterward, Jinta and Musuki began gathering information from the villagers. Later, they met again, and Musuki remarked it had been another exhausting and fruitless day, noting they couldn't rest and had to keep working, to which Jinta agreed. Next, they went to Musuki's house and started drinking. Jinta asked why Musuki was chasing his sister. Musuki explained it was for money, as many people hated demons and wanted them destroyed. He pledged to take a lot of money from these people in exchange for killing demons, asking if Jinta had a problem with that. Musuki noted that Jinta didn't seem like someone who killed without reason, and besides, couldn't complain while enjoying drinks bought with that money. Jinta chuckled, mentioning another reason was to gain strength, stating his life mission was to stop a particular demon. Musuki noted it was to stop, not kill. Jinta explained he had been human, but witnessing a demon kill the woman he loved turned him into someone like that demon, so killing demons that threatened humans felt natural. Musuki pointed out that by doing so, he was also allowing that demon to live. Jinta recalled Suzune becoming a demon and told Musuki he hadn't decided what to do when he faced her again, mentioning needing much strength and calling himself a coward. Musuki asked what Jinta would do after avenging his wife. Musuki replied he would do nothing. The only reason he lived as a human was his dislike of violence and not wanting to be hunted by humans or fight his kind. He wanted a peaceful life and wished his wife were with him. When he achieved peace, he would live alone and tend to her grave. Jinta reminded Musuki that he had said Musuki wasn't the type to do something without good reason, but Musuki replied that Jinta shouldn't think of him that way, as he was consumed by blind hatred for the damned monster. They moved to Alfie's restaurant, and Jinta went there to eat. He asked Alfie, "Did you find the killer?" She replied, you never mentioned you were looking for him. Offie said, but you told me your job is to kill demons, so it's reasonable to assume that tracking down rumors like the killer is part of what you do, right? Jinta replied, things haven't been going well. Offie's dad said, this is tough on you, my friend, isn't it? Making a living truly is a big pain. Jinta said to Offie, there must be lines of people because of a great waitress like you, and I think everyone in Eto is busy. Offie's dad asked him, do you think Offie has charm? He said, about 8 out of 10. Offie's dad said, that's what I wanted to hear, and told him he had great taste. Offie asked her dad, what's this big story? He said, it's good that you haven't had any serious relationships in your life. Offie replied, that's clear and true, but you shouldn't put Jinta in an awkward position. Her dad said, I just wanted to help you. Offie assured him, don't worry, I plan to stop living with you someday, but until that time comes, I want to act like your devoted daughter. Her dad said, okay. And Offie apologized to Jinta, who told her, no need to apologize, and mentioned that her dad is a really good man. She replied, of course, he's a source of pride for me. Jinta asked, wasn't your dad like that? She said, sorry, I shouldn't have asked. Jinta told her, I had a younger sister named Suzune, and my dad treated her very badly, hitting her and saying she didn't belong to our family. So I took Suzune, and we ran away from home a long time ago. Offie asked him, do you hate your dad? He replied, no, I understand why he did that, except things didn't go as he wished. They then moved to the bridge where Musuki and Jinta were. Musuki asked Jinta, did you find out anything? Jinta replied, no. Musuki said, another pointless search. After that, Jinta started to move, and Musuki followed, saying, there haven't been any kidnappings or attacks lately, so we haven't been able to gather any information. Then, Musuki asked Jinta to stop and said, look over there. Jinta said, that's Offie. Musuki asked him, do you know her? Jinta replied, she's the daughter of the restaurant owner I go to. Musuki said, then it's not good for her to be out alone. Jinta told Musuki, I'm going to her, and approached her. Offie said to Jinta, the moon is beautiful tonight, and asked him, are you alone? He said, no, I'm with a friend. He looked behind him, but didn't see Musuki, who had disappeared. Musuki told him I didn't show myself to her, and advised him not to hesitate to take her home, since they didn't want her to become the killer's victim. Offie asked Jinta, is something going on? He replied, no, and asked her why she was there. She said, I was enjoying the flowers, explaining their beauty, and that they bloom in winter and are one of the best types. Jinta said to her, they're indeed nice. I've never seen anything like them before. She replied, they're rare, that's why I hold on to them and admire them, and they look amazing in spring when they bloom. Jinta asked Offie if she could go home so her dad wouldn't worry. She replied, okay, and thank. She nodded as Afu and Jinta walked to her place. Afu mentioned that he really needed to relax more often. Jinta raised an eyebrow, wondering if he really seemed that tense, and she quickly responded that yes, he definitely had that brooding, overthinking energy, constantly pushing himself too hard. He couldn't deny it and admitted she was probably right. His entire life had been focused on one thing, the purpose he was born to fulfill. She didn't know what that purpose was, but she told him he should ease up sometimes. Life couldn't be all about chasing one goal. To him, though, that was all he had, and he told her he couldn't follow her advice, even if he wanted to. A moment later, she noticed some flowers along the path and stopped to admire them, pointing out that they were winter daphnes. She explained that these flowers begin to bloom in the fall and survive through winter, finally blossoming in spring, signaling that the season has officially arrived. Then, she pointed to another patch of flowers, and when she tried to identify them, he told her they were chickweed. He mentioned that boiling chickweed stalks made a great remedy for stomach aches, something he'd often used back in his village, especially for a childhood friend of his who had a sweet tooth and always ended up with stomach pains. Afu laughed, saying that girl must have been fun, and he admitted that he had always followed her lead. Hearing that, Afu began to suspect there was more to his story than he let on. He liked soba, admired flowers, and cherished warm memories from his past. He was more than just someone fixated on a purpose. She gently told him that being so focused on one goal was preventing him from seeing the rest of the world. She urged him to slow down sometimes and live in the moment, assuring him that if he did, he would notice things he hadn't before. Not long after, they reached her house and noticed that the lights were still on, which meant her dad had stayed up waiting for her. She thanked him for walking her home, and as she turned to leave, he asked if she'd teach him more about flowers sometime, preferably when the sun was still out. She smiled and agreed before heading inside. At that moment, Masuk deactivated his invisibility and commented that Afu seemed like a good woman. Jinta nearly jumped in surprise, realizing Masuk had been tailing him the whole time. Masuk dodged the question and said he was going to continue searching for the slasher. Once again, the night ended with Jinta waiting alone on the bridge for the killer to appear. A drunk man stumbled by Jinta, and at that moment, the slasher appeared and attacked him. The woman behind them dropped to her knees in shock, and Jinta finally got a good look at the slasher. It lunged at him, but he blocked the strike, and the girl started to panic. Jinta warned her to stay still if she wanted to survive, then moved the fight away from her to keep her safe. The slasher, seeing an opportunity, tried to circle back and attack the girl, but before it could get close, Masuk jumped in and pulled her to safety while Jinta launched a counterattack. Realizing it was outmatched, the slasher decided to flee, shooting into the air to escape. After it was gone, Jinta apologized to Masuk for letting the slasher get away, but Masuk shrugged it off, saying it had been tougher than he expected. Still, he planned to track it down and find where it was hiding. Jinta told him to be careful and keep his distance. Masuk nodded, assuring him he didn't plan on dying anytime soon, and set off after it. Once he was gone, the girl behind Jinta asked for help getting up. He assisted her and, noticing her look, she commented that his grumpy attitude really reminded her of something. She asked if he remembered her, and when he looked closely, he recognized her as Natsu. She was glad he remembered her, and he remarked on how much she had changed. It had been 3 years after all, and she was surprised he hadn't aged. He joked that he was immune to aging, and she laughed it off, thinking he was kidding. Curious, he asked what she was doing out so late. She explained she had just finished delivering something to a regular customer. He pointed out how much she had changed, noting that her smile looked more natural now. She told him that showed she wasn't a child anymore. At that moment, Zenji appeared and teased her, saying she wasn't quite an adult yet, which caught her off guard. He then noticed Jinta and immediately assumed they were romantically involved. Jinta quickly corrected him, explaining that Natsu had just been attacked by a serial killer. Zenji then saw the body nearby and panicked, suggesting they call the authorities. Natsu explained that wouldn't help since it was the work of a demon. Jinta confirmed this, saying it was the same demon he had been chasing for a while, and Natsu had just gotten caught in the crossfire. Zenji joked that Jinta always seemed to be surrounded by demons. Natsu then asked how he made a living these days, and Jinta told her he was still a demon-slaying ronin. He added that if she wanted to see him again, she could find him at a soba shop in Fukugawa. He even offered her a discount if she stopped by. Since her escort had already arrived, he figured it was time to leave. Before parting, she thanked him for saving her life. As Jinta was walking off, Zenji called out one last piece of advice. If Jinta was still looking for demons, he might want to check out Temple. The place had been abandoned ever since the head priest passed away, and locals were saying they'd been hearing a woman's voice echoing from inside. Rumors were spreading that something unnatural might be living there. Meanwhile, Masuk was still tracking the demon through the streets, but he ended up losing it. Just then, a woman's scream cut through the night, and he rushed toward the sound, only to spot the demon carrying someone. It instantly reminded him of his wife Hatsu, and the rage he'd been holding in finally exploded. He chased the demon all the way to Temple, slipped inside using his invisibility, and what he saw there left him shaking with fury. The demon was devouring the woman it had just kidnapped, swallowing her whole, bones and all. At that moment, Masuk couldn't hold himself back anymore. He charged in, dead set on ending the thing, convinced it was the same one that murdered Hatsu. But the demon sensed him coming and tore into him with its claws, shredding his gut open. Then it calmly went back to its meal, chewing through the woman's head while Masuk lay on the ground, bleeding out, wondering if this was how he was going to die, pathetic and empty, without even getting his revenge. Eventually, the demon left, and not long after, Jinta showed up. He spotted Masuk barely hanging on and knelt beside him. Masuk managed a weak grin, joking that he had really made a mess of himself. Jinta asked if he found the demon, and Masuk confirmed it, saying it was here eating women alive. It was the same monster that took his wife. Jinta was stunned to hear that, especially about the eating part. Then, Masuke made one final request. He asked Jinta to avenge him and handed him a sword forged in Kadano, saying it would slice through any demon like butter. Jinta promised to do just that, but in return, he asked Masuke to lend him his power. Masuke was relieved and grateful, even that he could still help Jinta one last time, even with his dying breath. Jinta then absorbed Masuke's power, and as he did, he caught a glimpse into his soul. He saw that Masuke had spent most of his life running from demons, constantly looking over his shoulder. But when he finally settled in this town, he began living like a regular human, and for the first time, he found peace. Eventually, he met the woman who would become his wife, and over time, they fell in love. When things got serious, he came clean about his true nature, revealing that he was actually a demon. But instead of running away, she looked him dead in the eye and told him she loved him. So, human or demon, it didn't matter to her. After seeing that, Jinta finished absorbing Masuke's power and quietly promised to carry out his final wish. Some time passed, and we see the demon dragging another woman into its hideout and starting to feed. As it ate, it started recalling the day it first became self-aware. It had already been born into this grotesque demonic body from the beginning. It had this instinct, this need to kill men. That urge was the only thing it understood at the time. Since then, it had been searching for something. It didn't know who or what it was looking for, just that it needed to go home, but it didn't even know where home was. The only thing it was sure of was that it couldn't return in its current state, so it kept abducting women it believed carried something its body lacked. That's why it devoured them, so it could consume what was missing and finally find a way back. Back in the present, the demon continued its feeding frenzy when suddenly Jinta showed up. He was surprised the creature would come back here after its lair was exposed. Without hesitation, he attacked, using invisibility and slicing off one of its hands in a clean strike. The demon lashed back, but Jinta dodged every blow, keeping just out of reach. It bolted across the temple, trying to go on the offensive. Jinta admitted that its power was kind of a pain to deal with, but this time, he was armed with Masuke's power. He dodged every strike again, then dropped his invisibility and let the demonic aura in his arm flare. He then told the demon that he was going to end it by using the gift Masuke had entrusted him with. Jinta then charged in, vanishing at the last second, and in one clean motion, took its head off. The demon was still clinging to life, gasping in pain, and Jinta walked up to it, demanding an answer. He asked why it left Masuke's wife's body untouched when it devoured every other woman it captured. If it really was the killer Masuke was hunting, then why didn't it consume her completely? The demon started crying, saying it needed a body, it couldn't go home without one. Jinta didn't understand what it was talking about, but he remembered the question. The demon asked him earlier if he feasted too. He told it yes, he does, except he feeds on demons the same way it fed on women. Now he was going to consume its power. As he absorbed the demon's strength, he realized its ability was called Dart, a temporary speed burst that lets the user kick through the air and accelerate instantly. It was a solid ability, one that would surely come in handy. But as he consumed the demon, he ended up seeing into its soul. He saw Hatsu, Masuke's wife, being violated by two men while they were laughing, before tossing her into the river like trash. As she sank, her final thoughts were about going home, but she refused to return in a body that had been defiled. Instead, she searched for another vessel, one that could help her make it back to her husband. That's when it became clear to Jinta that this demon was Hatsu, and she just wanted to go home. But that was never going to happen. The demon then faded away, and Jinta quietly left the temple. A few days later, back at the soba shop, the owner mentioned that Jinta hadn't shown up in a while. He figured it was because he joked about letting him marry his daughter. She reminded her father that he never actually said that, and she also ran into Jinta the other day in Sakusa, and they chatted for a bit. He told her he'd stop by once he was finished with his current job. The owner thought the job might already be done because word around town was that the slasher disappeared and the killings had stopped. But she told him Jinta mentioned he still had demons to hunt somewhere else. Those same two men who violated Hatsu were wandering the streets late at night. They started talking about finding their next victim, laughing about how the last one cried out for her husband as they dragged her under. But then they saw Jinta. He stepped forward without a word and cut both of them down in a single strike. Looking down at their bodies, he said nothing. He just hoped that Masuke could finally rest in peace, now that Hatsu had been avenged. Then he walked away. There was a small girl singing and playing with a ball among the water lily flowers. She stopped singing and said there was no continuation. The warrior Miura was walking at night, and there was a villager walking in front of him with a child. Miura imagined the big man was someone he knew and almost called out to him, but he ended up bumping into Natsu. When Natsu looked at him, she noticed he had 2 weapons and immediately apologized. Miura said, "No, I'm sorry for not looking ahead." After that, Afu's father told her that this gentleman was Miura, a samurai, and was known to be very nice. Next, we moved to Afu's father's restaurant, where Afu served him food, but he didn't eat. Afu's father asked him why he wasn't eating. Miura replied, "Of course, it's because I have a small problem." He then asked if it was possible for him to listen for a moment. Afu's father said, "Of course." Miura said, "I have an older brother." Afu's father told him, "Stop pretending to be foolish. There is no older brother in the Miura family." Miura replied, "But I do have an older brother." He asked, "Afu, do you know my big brother Sadana?" Ofu replied that she was sorry she didn't know him. Miura said, "Of course, no one knows my older brother, not even my parents." Afu's father told Miura not to think too much about it and urged him to eat since the food was getting cold. Afu asked Miura if she could introduce him to a nice person. Miura said he was okay with it if the person was nice. Afu mentioned that this person might be able to help him. Afu's father said there was a customer who loved to poke his head into strange stories like this. Miura asked, "Is this person a swordsman who fights evil? Does he make money this way?" They laughed at Miura's words. Afu's father said, "No, this man is a mercenary, and clearly he's someone who can help you. Of course, he will take your money, but he's a great duelist and can take out evildoers with one strike from his sword." Afu told Miura that dealing with him might be tough, but he's a good and somewhat nice person. Afu's father added that he eats Afu's soba here every day, and here he comes just as we're talking about him. Jinta entered the restaurant and placed his order, catching Miura's attention as well. Afu's father asked Jinta if he liked the Afu soba this time too. Jinta replied, "No, it was as usual." Afu's father told him he should tell him at least once that it was good. Jinta replied that it was available in all the restaurants, but he liked to taste it here. After that, Afu poured tea for him. Jinta told her she got used to that. Afu said she is improving every day compared to the previous one. She asked him what he thought, and Jinta took a sip and told her that autumn is the season for trees and allows the beautiful scent to flow and the beautiful flowers to bloom. Afu agreed that was true. Jinta said it's interesting to focus on this matter and told her he's attracted to the flowers found in nature, like along the road. Ofu replied that anyway, the season's flowers have finished, and next time, she would tell him a story about the flowers. After that, Miura approached Jinta and apologized for interrupting. He introduced himself to Jinta and asked if it was true that he heard he was obsessed with weird stories and rumors about the evildoers. Jinta replied that he was good at defeating evildoers. Miura asked him if he could explain something to him if he asked. Jinta said it was a bit different, and all he could do was defeat evildoers. If it wasn't evil, that wasn't his specialty. He apologized to him. Miura said he understood, left the money for the food, and went. Afu's father asked Jinta if he could help Miura, telling him he was in big trouble because of his big brother leaving. Afu added that she was also asking this of him because Miura was very troubled because he lost someone important to him, and they begged him. Jinta said, okay, he would return the favor for what they had done for him, which made them feel happy. Jinta told them that the food had improved a lot and that he had put a lot of effort into it. Afu's father replied that it was the result of practice. We shift to Natsu after she went to Jinta and joined him, asking for mochi and some tea. Sitting next to him, she asked Jinta if he liked mochi. He said of course. Afterward, the waitress served food to Natsu, and she said it was delicious when eaten hot. Jinta asked Natsu why things didn't end with Zenji. Natsu felt choked because food had stopped in her mouth and immediately drank tea. She asked him what he was saying. Jinta said that she was now at an appropriate age. Natsu replied that she couldn't be with Zenji. Jinta told her she would feel comfortable and secure with him. Natsu stated that Zenji was like a big brother to her. Additionally, her father mentioned marriage in front of her, but he told her that she could do anything she wanted when she got married. She thought about the store and that it would be better to have a big shelf filled with flowers. She asked Jinta if he didn't think that way, to which he replied that as a mercenary, he didn't have a stable job. She acknowledged it but reminded him that he needed to take things seriously soon. She then asked his age, and Jinta answered he was 31. Surprised, she said he was older than Zenji and wondered if he had any secrets. Jinta said he would leave that up to her. Natsu asked if Jinta was leaving, and he confirmed he had work. When Natsu asked if it was another evildoer, Jinta gestured yes. Natsu asked why he killed such people, suggesting if he had a mission, he could work on other tasks too. Jinta admitted he didn't know why he did it. Natsu asked him to explain further, and Jinta said she had dared to suggest it. Maybe that was the only thing he had left. Natsu felt relieved, commenting that he was usually calm, but now she understood he had a softer side, sometimes fragile but still human. Jinta told her to forget it. Natsu responded, "That's enough. You're not a stranger anymore. We've been together for a while now, and if you keep this up, you'll stay a stranger forever." She had to return to the store but stopped before leaving, telling him not to worry about wrinkles showing up on his face. Next, we moved to Mira's home. As he was about to leave, his mother called out to him, asking if he was leaving again today. She said she was sure he had no siblings. Mira replied, "I'm sure I have a brother." His mother urged him to search for his brother and stop meddling in family history. Those who understand virtue should forget this and seek help from a stranger. And those who have sworn allegiance should never forget they're a samurai. Mira questioned her, asking, "What's this talk?" He added that, if he found his brother, he would stop doing what he was doing. With that, he left the house. He ran for a while, then stopped, feeling tired. As he rested, he imagined his brother's voice. His brother said, "You have no friends because you have a house, and you have a house because you have friends." He reflected on it, but didn't want to give up his own will. Returning to the present, he asked, "Where are you, brother?" Suddenly, Jinta appeared and said, "You're looking for me." He introduced himself as Jinta, a mercenary, explaining that he had come to help but couldn't promise a solution. Mira said he didn't mind, as believing in him felt like salvation. Jinta asked about what happened before his brother's disappearance. Mira agreed to take him to the castle. Jinta followed, and on the way, Mira remarked that Jinta didn't seem burdened by much, asking if he was from a samurai family. Jinta replied, "No, I grew up in a hut in the mountains in a place called Tatarba." Despite that, he had ended up in this position, benefiting from his role as a warrior. Mira said he understood and then asked if Ko knew where he was from. Jinta confirmed. Mira added, "Because of Tatarba, when I saw your sword's iron scabbard, I thought it was well crafted. I have a hobby of studying swords, and I've heard that Kaiden swords are known for their simple iron scabbards. But your scabbard is finely made." Jinta explained that it was a top-quality sword originally kept in the castle, which is why he was allowed to use it. Mira asked for its name, and Jinta told him it was Yara. Mira noted that people from Kadano also called it Onomusaku, or Honori, and asked if it was just a legend or if it was evil. Jinta said he hadn't heard of it being evil and mentioned that the village lord had told him it had been frozen and couldn't be broken even after 1,000 years. Mira then asked if he could see the sword, but Jinta apologized and said no. Mira said it was a long story and suggested they start now. Mira explained he had been searching for his brother Sadana, but no one seemed to remember him, not even his parents. He was the only one who clearly remembered his brother, and everyone else had forgotten him. Then, their father Afu appeared and said, "I don't think people come here just to chat." Jinta replied that people always came to the store, to which Afu said, "You're very serious." Jinta responded it was just a joke, mentioning they seemed concerned about Mira, which was why he had come. Afu said she was glad to hear him joke. Jinta then asked when Mira's brother disappeared. Mira explained it happened in late April that spring. It wasn't strange, but he had noticed it. His brother had mentioned he was going to see his daughter before he vanished. He told Jinta about a flower in his brother's room that he didn't know the name of. It had a strong fragrance, small white petals with a yellow center, and a white line in the middle. His brother wasn't one to care for flowers, so it caught his curiosity. Jinta asked when Mira found the flower, and Mira said it was after his brother's disappearance. He was the only one who went into his brother's room, so he thought his brother had left it there. Jinta asked if the flower was still there, and Mira said he kept it as proof, hoping it could help him. Jinta expressed his intention to visit the castle the next day. The next day, Jinta visited Afu's father's restaurant. He was greeted by Natsu and ordered his food. Afu's father asked Jinta when he had started this work. Jinta replied it had only been a few days. Afu's father suggested he needed to put in more effort. Afu asked her father what he meant. Natsu then asked Jinta if he was close to Miura. Afu said they weren't that close, but he visited occasionally, and they talked. Jinta replied it wasn't much, and Afu agreed, but added he was nice to her, serious but kind. Natsu asked if he was the man she had bumped into before. Afu confirmed, and Natsu remarked that he was very humble. Afu's father mentioned that when it came to swords, Jinta's eyes changed color. He then handed Jinta something, saying it was a gift from Miura. Jinta said he couldn't take it, but Afu's father insisted, saying it was of no use to him. Jinta eventually accepted and promised to keep it. Afu's father thanked him and addressed him as Mr. Jinta. Afu apologized for her father's insistence, and Jinta asked about the flowers with the white line. Were they water lilies? Afu confirmed, and Jinta noted they seemed small, and that they might not be water lilies after all. Finally, we see a little girl playing with a ball, while her parents watched her with happiness. As the girl looked at her parents, they suddenly vanished, and she dropped the ball from her hands. Meanwhile, Jinta and Miura arrived at Miura's home, where Miura invited him inside. They were greeted by Miura's mother, who asked who Jinta was. Jinta stepped forward politely, introduced himself, and apologized for arriving unannounced. Miura's mother welcomed him and asked her son to explain more. Jinta mentioned he came from Kaduno, and she recognized it as the village known for blacksmiths. Miura confirmed and added that Jinta was a samurai who shared his interest in katanas. He invited Jinta to stay the night. Grateful, Miura's mother thanked Jinta. When he asked why, she explained that Jinta had brought joy back into Miura's life. After entering the room, Jinta complimented her, but Miura said she was more embarrassing than kind. Then Miura showed Jinta the flower he had found. Jinta identified it as a daffodil, though smaller than expected, and asked if Miura was sure he had seen them in spring. Miura confirmed. Jinta then told him something unsettling, that the girl Miura's brother had gone to meet might have been a demon, and that his brother could have been taken to another world. The daffodils were evidence of that. Miura asked if the flowers came from the demon's world, and Jinta asked to see his brother's room. Miura agreed and told Jinta to follow, but Jinta paused, asking him to go ahead. When Miura insisted he wouldn't know the way alone, Jinta assured him it would be fine. Once Miura left, Jinta trailed him silently, thinking that his open presence might interfere with something. As Miura entered his brother's room, he caught a strange perfume in the air that made him dizzy. Then, everything changed. He found himself in another world, witnessing a young girl trying to save her parents from a fire. She failed, and everything was reduced to ashes. When she got up, people were terrified of her. She tried to reach out, but they ran from her. Looking into the water, she saw her red eyes, a sign she had become a demon. She mourned the loss of her parents, her home, and even her fragmented memories. Feeling like she had lost herself, she fled, knowing she could never return to the garden of her past. Time passed. She grew up in the city and eventually came upon Sadana, Miura's brother, at Are's house, practicing as his family watched. The sight made her cry. She wanted to go back. Imagining her parents again, she began to play with the ball. Then Miura woke up in that same strange world and wondered what was happening. Jinta appeared behind him, startling him. He explained that it seemed they had crossed into the place tied to Sadana's room. When Miura asked where they were, Jinta pointed out the fire, the demon girl, and the ruined house, noting none of it should still exist. He asked if Miura had seen it too. Miura nodded. They then saw the girl playing ball in front of Sadana. Miura rushed forward to his brother, but was suddenly struck by pain in his head. He asked Sadana what he wanted him to cook, saying he had improved. But the girl interrupted, telling Sadana to stop, urging him to give up and leave. Sadana, however, said it was time to make his special soba. The girl pleaded with him, explaining that she had a family and a home she wanted to return to. She begged him not to let sympathy bind him there. "This is the garden of happiness," she said, "where I can see my parents. But you must leave." Sadana gently told the girl she misunderstood. He explained that it's not a home that creates people, but people who create homes. Happiness, he said, can be found anywhere, and any place that doesn't bring joy can't truly be called home. The girl questioned how he could know that. He replied that she had spent a century here alone and must have felt it deep inside. He then offered to leave this place, but only if she came with him. She said that was impossible. This garden belonged to her. Sadana then asked, "What if we lived together?" suggesting he could quit being a samurai and they could live quietly somewhere else. He even asked if she wanted to be his daughter. But the girl refused, saying she couldn't leave and couldn't see him as a father. Sadana smiled and said, "All right, that's awkward. but I'll wait until you change your mind. He told her he meant it and that the day she saw him as a father, they'd leave together. The girl, though, doubted that day would ever come. What a shame, Sadana sighed. Looks like I'm stuck here forever. Then he vanished. Aramori, shocked, asked the girl where his brother had gone. She said softly, "No one's here anymore. It's all gone." Desperate, Aramori begged her to bring him back. Genta stepped in, telling him the truth. Sadana wasn't coming back. Aramori, confused and emotional, said he had just seen him. Genta explained that while Sadana had been there, it wasn't what it seemed. Genta then used the daffodils to explain. He said daffodils bloom in winter, but Sadana disappeared in spring, and now it was autumn, yet these flowers were blooming again. That meant this place wasn't bound by their world's time. He once thought the daffodils always bloomed in the demon's world, but now he realized that time here moved much faster. The girl confirmed this. She revealed she had the power of a dreamer, able to create a memory world, a dream garden of past happiness. But she couldn't trap anyone here. Her power was only a beautiful longing. Aramori asked about his brother again. Was he dead? The girl answered that no one remained here anymore. Then, with sadness and gratitude, she admitted that she had stolen his brother from him, but also thanked him, saying Hayoma Sadana had given her salvation. She said they'd return to their world upon waking. Genta asked her what she would do next. She said she would continue to gaze at all she had lost, and that the man, Sadana, had spent his life trying to give her a home. Genta assured her that she would one day fulfill her promise to Sadana. When they returned to their world, Aramori reflected on what had happened and finally understood why his brother had chosen to stay. Later, at Afu's father's restaurant, Aramori shared what he discovered in historical records. A great fire 200 years ago that likely took the girls home. He suspected the land where Mara's castle now stands was once her family's land. He asked Genta if he believed it too. Genta nodded. It would explain the strange bond between their world and hers. Genta apologized for not being more help, but Aramori assured him he had done more than enough. He praised Sadana as a man who followed his heart, even if they never fully understood his choices. As Aramori left to resume his duties, Afu stopped him and said his brother was amazing. Even if no one remembered him, Sadana had given everything to help someone. The words moved Aramori to tears. He said he was proud of his brother. Afterward, both Afu and her father thanked Genta for helping Aramori. Afu's father asked why Genta looked so somber. Genta admitted he was still troubled. He explained that while they knew the demoness Sadana, her real name for him was Hayoma. Afu's father confirmed that the name Hayoma was real, but only close family or a lord would know it. Laughing softly, Afu's father pointed out that if the girl called him Hayoma, then she must have been seen as family by Sadana. Genta then recalled something. Miura's mother used to call her son by a different name, Natsu. That name, too, was something only family or a lord would know. Genta noted that demons don't lie, but they sometimes hide the full truth. He suggested that Sadana hadn't died, but had lived over 20 years in the dream world, while only a month passed in reality. By the time he returned, he was an old man who couldn't go back to his old life. So, he moved to the city, bought an old house, and opened a soba shop in Edido. Genta added that if he was wrong, he welcomed correction. Afu's father mused that if time moved faster there, maybe Sadana had died of old age, but Genta disagreed. He believed Sadana was still alive because the girl smiled, and that smile meant she had found a new father. Right, Sadana, he whispered. Afu's father teased, "That's not fair. When did you figure it out?" Genta smiled. At the moment, everything ended. There were hints all along, not just names, but things like the samurai tools in that soba shop. Tools only a samurai like Sadana would own. Afu's father confirmed the truth and mentioned that Miura was often bothered by his appearance whenever they met in public, which is why he gave him the small hair care stick. Genta asked Afu's father if he had told Miura that he was his brother, believing Miura would be glad to know his brother was alive. Afu's father, Sadan, explained that he chose to stay with the one who needed protection the most. Since then, he had lost his identity as a member of the Maya family and no longer considered himself Miura's brother. He had grown up and was confident he'd be fine without him. He asked Genta to keep the stick as a gift since he no longer needed it. Genta called him stubborn. Sadan apologized and said, "It seems no one understood my reasoning, right?" He then asked Genta if he understood why he chose to become a father to the girl. Genta replied that there was no real reason, was there? Sedan smiled, saying it was clear. He couldn't stand seeing the girl suffer alone, so he decided to stay with her. Once someone commits to a path in life, they stick with it, regardless of whether others understand it or not. Everyone has their own way of thinking, and there's no need to explain it to others. Jinta agreed, saying that our personal reasons are meant for us alone, not for others to comprehend. Sedan remarked that he knew Jinta would understand, complimenting him on his wisdom and calling him a devil, which surprised Jinta. Sedan then said he had lived over 20 years with a devil, hadn't he? He had come to understand the impact they have on those around them. Jinta asked about the girl's condition, and Sedan said she was there with them, looking at Afu. Jinta noted that this explained why they wouldn't have trouble entering her world. Afu then interjected, saying, "Don't you remember what I told you? You're still just a kid." Jinta responded, "I guess I still am a kid to you since you've lived more than 200 years. Afu asked, "What now? You told us your job was to eliminate demons." Jinta replied that he wanted some kakisoba. Afu asked her father to bring a plate of kakisoba, and Sedan agreed, saying, "Right away." He prepared the dish and poured tea for Jinta, smiling. Jinta then asked Afu what was so funny, and Alfie explained that she was simply happy. "Can't you see?" she said, adding that she had always known that his life had a deeper meaning beyond just his mission, and brought him the kakisoba. As Jinta reflected on the past, he said that time moves relentlessly forward, and even the things closest to our hearts slip through our fingers. Everything we lose is lost forever, with no way to get it back. Returning to the present, he told Sedan, "I made you a wonderful plate of kakisoba." This time, Jinta went to Natsu's father, who offered him a new mission involving a demon named Yukio. She had been drawn by a painter, and when the painter sold her pictures, he became bedridden from exhaustion. Natsu's father asked Jinta to eliminate her, promising a large reward. A comic book store owner had informed him about the situation. Jinta thought Yukio seemed ordinary, but noted that appearances can be deceiving. She might be a freak of nature who only manifests under specific conditions. He then went to Sedan's restaurant and asked Afu to bring him cake soba. Suddenly, Zenji appeared, wanting to talk about Yukio, and showed Jinta a picture of her again. He said the comic store owner who had the picture had died mysteriously and was believed to be cursed. The picture had torn because it fell while Zenji was carrying it, which angered Sedan. He didn't want cursed objects in his restaurant. Jinta then showed them another picture of the same demon, which he got from Natsu's father. It was identical. They were surprised by how widely the image had spread and how recent it seemed, less than a year old, judging by the vivid colors. They decided to find the artist by questioning the comic book seller in Tenmacho. Zenji agreed to help, possibly out of gratitude, since Jinta had taken care of Natsu in the past. They found the picture seller, and Zenji learned where the artist lived. He informed Jinta, who then visited the artist's home. The artist, named Saga, was bedridden but welcomed Jinta warmly, calling him polite. His room was filled with drawing tools, making Jinta wonder why he'd stopped drawing. Saga explained that it was due to old age, not a curse. When Jinta showed him the picture of Yukio, Saga immediately recognized it. He had drawn her himself. Jinta was investigating the picture's origins. Saga explained that the painting had nothing to do with the path of hell, Ito. A man named Madara had named the woman in the picture Kazandika. Upon hearing that name, Jinta was stunned. He looked at his sword and remembered that Madara had saved him and his sister in the forest. Back then, Madara was defending a village while wounded and felt useless, unable to protect the woman he loved or defeat the demon attacking them. He had no choice but to protect her and was unhappy about it. But over time, even the most resolved hearts change. He advised Jinta to appreciate his own pain and protect Sun and Sherry. Returning to the present, Jinta wanted to know more about Madara, his foster father. But one couldn't talk about Madara without mentioning Yukio. In the past, when Saga was young and inexperienced, he met a beautiful woman who refused to give her name, but told him she'd be under his care. They lived together and Saga began to draw. Madara came to deliver a message to the woman and was frustrated at being reduced to a courier, despite being a skilled swordsman. Back in the present, Saga told Jinta he used to visit Ito every year and often complained about it. He said the original picture of the beautiful woman was indeed drawn by him while she lived with him. However, the copies in circulation now were wood prints from a newer draft he created. Despite its beauty, it wasn't just a portrait of a woman, it was a portrait of a demon. Jinta noticed that the sword in her hands seemed to belong belonged to Madara, which impressed Saga. Saga didn't want to tell Jinta the full story to avoid upsetting him. He recalled how Madara, despite often complaining about the woman, had deep feelings for her. Saga never saw her himself, but was told she came from Shinano, fled to Kadana, and then to Ito. This confirmed the connection between the woman and the picture. Jinta was shocked to realize she was the same woman Madara once loved. They had jokingly called her a picture of a demon to tease her, but the painting carried deep, possibly cursed emotions. Saga sometimes wondered if he could be punished for selling the painting, though he believed the misfortunes were coincidences. Still, Madara had many demands during the painting's creation, wanting it to be perfect. Seeing the woman had even reminded Saga of a princess, although she and the woman were the same person. For Madara, the feelings were intense and obsessive. The girl had once said something similar, and Madara told Jinta this long ago. She was from Swa in Shinano. Saga remembered how, after completing the painting, Madara wanted to name it Yasuka, in honor of the girl from Shinano, but changed his mind due to her beauty and instead chose Kazandika. He then told Jinta that Kazandika was tea from start to finish. Madara had intense feelings for her, what some might call cursed love. Saga admired how well Jinta handled the story emotionally. He gave Jinta the original picture, which was slightly stained but still intact, and asked him not to hate Madara. Though foolish, Madara deeply cared for his family. After having a daughter and meeting Jinta and Suzune, he never returned to Ito. Jinta recalled when Madara had taken him in and taught him important life lessons. Back at Sedan's restaurant, food was served, but Jinta seemed off. They realized that something had changed in him after visiting Saga. He had seen a side of his father he never knew. But that's normal for fathers. They panic, they worry, and they have flaws. Still, they remain fathers. Later, at Natsu's father's home, Jinta reported that the picture had no real link to demons, and the man's death was just coincidence. Everything appeared normal. No unusual or dangerous events had occurred. Natsu's father thanked Jinta and invited him to eat. They poured drinks for each other and shared a moment. Natsu's father admitted he drank often to escape his responsibilities, and Jinta, who also loved to drink under the moonlight, asked if they could share another drink sometime. In the 7th year, a demonist approaches Jinta while he is alone, begging him to buy her because she is in great pain. However, Jinta refuses. She pleads again, but he rejects her once more. The demonist then attacks Jinta, but fails to harm him. He tries to learn her name, but she doesn't give him the chance. Eventually, he manages to kill her, and her white smoke appears. A lady witnesses everything and rewards Jinta, explaining that she had an agreement with him to kill this girl, because she was originally a low-ranking prostitute in Yoshiwara who contracted syphilis, which destroyed her both physically and mentally. She ultimately became a demon and killed a man under a cherry tree. Jinta questions why he was given this task. Was it out of pity? The lady admits she is emotional and fears she will end up in the same situation someday. She cannot ignore it when she thinks about it. She thanks Jinta, surprising him with her self-perception. She explains that, as someone who earns a living this way, she can read men's expressions to some extent and sees his expression as that of a lost child. When Jinta asks her who she is, she introduces herself as Utaka, a common name among street prostitutes, saying that the name alone is enough. She then tells him that if she ever becomes a demon under the cherry trees, she hopes he will kill her quickly, but at that time, she won't reward him. Jinta clarifies he doesn't work for free, which makes her think he is emotionless. She then leaves, and Jinta feels this woman is very mysterious. Next, the scene shifts to Kunrizen Temple, crowded due to a holy day. There are Afu and Natsu. Natsu asks where the man she invited is, and Afu tells her that Jinta and Armor are working, so they didn't come, and Zenji couldn't attend because he was the one who invited them. Natsu mimics her father, who once said that any good merchant knows holiday events are great opportunities for business. She tells Afu this and suggests they enjoy themselves at the festival. They play with kids, eat sausages and sweets, then stop by a certain plant. From it, Natsu learns they are in the middle of summer and asks Afu the plant's name. Afu says it's called Hasuki because its fruit is pink like hers, and some say it's drenched in the fire of the year, making it seem like it's covered in flames. There are many theories about it, but no precise source. Afu also tells her some write it as Sasuke, meaning demon lantern, which might be the shining light from demons when they roam, which scares Natsu. Afu thinks Natsu is afraid of demons, but Natsu says everyone is. She reveals she was attacked twice by demons and nearly died if not for Jinta. She recalls that 4 years ago, he was her bodyguard for 2 nights, and when she saw him cut off a demon's arm, the child inside her saw it like a living doll from a storybook. Then, Afu asks if Natsu loves Jinta, but Natsu denies it, saying it's not love, he is just someone from many stories of her own. She recalls his words about why he walks his path and tells Afu that when Jinta looked at her then, it wasn't the gaze of a fighter, but of someone fragile enough to break at the slightest touch. That's when she realized he was no different from her, and that's why she feels comfortable around him. She thinks calling this feeling love would disappoint all the women in the world. Afu agrees, saying Jinta avoids his feelings and refuses to confront them. Then, Mr. Akitsu calls them over to see his merchandise and encourages them to buy if they like something. Natsu whispers to Afu, asking who he is. Afu says he's a regular customer at their restaurant from Kyoto. Akitsu introduces himself as Sumiguro Akitsu, surprising Natsu because Sumiguro Akitsu is known as one of the best metalworkers. When Akitsu tries not to make her worry, she tells him she's Tohaku's daughter, so how could she not worry? She also asks if his goods live up to his name. Glancing at his merchandise, she finds it good. Akitsu shows 2 matching shells, which Natsu recognizes as a bit worn but finely crafted. He tells her that since they are the same age, if she gives these shells as a gift to someone she cares about, he will definitely fall in love with her. However, Natsu denies having someone she cares for. Afu intervenes, saying she does have someone but is embarrassed to say it, making Natsu even more embarrassed, causing her to laugh. He then shows her a puffed bird, which Natsu finds cute but says it doesn't compare to the shells. Sumiguro Akitsu explains that in the lineage of kings, birds transform into shells that drop into the seas, though he thinks this is just a myth. He adds that the birds disappear in late autumn and drop into the seas, turning into shells. He sees this bird as very suitable for Natsu because it's small compared to shells. Natsu feels he's mocking her, but he clarifies that he isn't. He says it's good to be a puffed bird that can survive the winter. He explains that people's hearts change and wishes for her feelings to bloom and turn into a shell. However, Natsu objects to being called a bird, although she likes it and decides to buy it. After giving him the money, Akitsu hands her something as a gift, which surprises Natsu. It's a real Sumiguro Kanashi. She inquires how he got it, but he tells her it's not worth much and that he'll throw it away later if she doesn't take it, which shocks Natsu. So, Akitsu insists she keeps it, saying it will bring her happiness. Natsu accepts and thanks him before they say their goodbyes. As they walk away, the bells ring more intensely and a plant falls from the tree, revealing a large hidden shadow. Next, we move to Jinta, who is pursuing another demon. He locates and kills it, then goes to the person who assigned him the task to receive his reward. The man offers him some special sake from a rare source, but Jinta refuses and leaves. Grateful, the man tells him to ask if he ever needs anything in the future. While walking alone, Utaka appears and tells Jinta he came out unscathed. When he asks if she was worried, she confirms she was. She says if she died because of the information she sold, she couldn't live with herself. Jinta gives her something for that information. Then Utaka asks Jinta what's bothering him. He replies that he's troubled because he killed something he didn't want to, but couldn't choose to use his sword differently. As she starts to leave, she tells him about another man who specializes in killing demons, but it's not him. It's Muji, who can control shikimi and reportedly uses animals like dogs and birds to hunt demons, though she's unsure and calls it just talk. She warns him not to let this new rival steal his work. Next, Jinta goes to the Sadada restaurant, where they are waiting for him. Afu tells him Natsu isn't doing well. When Natsu sees Jinta, she rushes over, grabs his hand, and says she missed him. Jinta pulls his hand away, but Natsu tells him not to. Then Afu explains what happened. The first time Natsu placed the kazanshi on her head, something strange occurred. She started crying and asking about Jinta. Jinta asks Natsu to check the kazanshi. When he holds it, he sees it's completely ordinary, with nothing wrong. Sana asks to break it, but Jinta refuses. Natsu requests her kazanshi again and hugs it tightly. Then Zenji arrives, surprised by the situation, and tries to pull her away from Jinta, but she yells at him. They all sit together at the same table, with Natsu still clinging to Jinta, while Zenji wonders what happened. Jinta asks Afu where they bought the kazanshi, and she tells him it was Mr. Akitsu, giving all the information about him. When Jinta wants to find him to ask questions, Zenji says Akitsu has been dead for a while. Literally, he died decades ago. Zenji explains that Akitsu moved on to selling combs and sword accessories. including Kazanchi, and that his works are rare and hard to obtain. Afu mentions that Natsu said the hairpin was a piece from Sumiguro, leading Zenji to believe Akitsu might have returned as a demon to hunt them down. Then Sana says she saw Mr. Akitsu with her own eyes and insists it's impossible for him to be a demon. Jinta also believes Sana's words, and Zenji is amazed that Jinta believes Sana, despite never having met Akitsu before. Afu asks what they should do, which leaves everyone feeling hopeless. As Jinta prepares to leave in search of Akitsu, Natsu holds on tightly so he won't move. Jinta asks her to let him go, but she refuses, saying she's waited a long time and won't leave him. He then asks why she wants to be near him and why she calls him her brother. She admits she doesn't understand, but tells him that just as birds embrace blooming flowers, there's a reason for it. All she wants is to stay by his side, and after a long wait, her wish is fulfilled. She is satisfied. Jinta tells her he will go out and return again, asking her not to worry and to wait for him in the same place. When he leaves, everyone is surprised by how well he handles the situation. We return to Kenrizen Temple, where Jinta asks about Akitsu in several places, but can't find him. Suddenly, he recalls what happened in the past. Returning to the present, Akitsu appears behind him, saying he's sure there will be a beautiful moon tonight and that he likes to drink sake on such days. Jinta asks if he needs anything, not realizing it's Akitsu. Akitsu tells him he came looking for him and says there is only one reason: a demon would seek him out. When Jinta asks for his name, Akitsu reveals his demonic power, says his name is Akitsu, and summons a pack of dogs through his. Then Akitsu ordered the dogs to attack Jinta. The 3 dogs lunged at him, but Jinta cut off the head of the first one, which impressed Akitsu. He then summoned another dog to push Jinta further. When the dogs attacked all at once, Jinta repelled them with strikes from his sword. However, they reappeared, and Jinta was surprised there seemed to be no end to them. He used his special power of invisibility. Though he kept killing the dogs repeatedly, they reappeared each time, recognizing him through their strong sense of smell. Eventually, Jinta revealed himself and launched a quick attack on Akitsu, striking and pushing him back. When Akitsu tried to stand up, Jinta pointed his sword at his head and split him in half, but nothing happened, as it was just a mirage. Though Jinta had made a solid attempt, he had failed. Akitsu vanished, and the dogs restrained Jinta with their teeth and knocked him down. Akitsu praised his dogs, said goodbye, and tried to leave. But Jinta transformed again, surprising Akitsu. Jinta realized the souls of Akitsu's dogs were like superior demons and stole them, turning them against Akitsu. The dogs surrounded him, preventing his escape. As Jinta approached, Akitsu pleaded for mercy. Jinta asked why he should spare him and demanded answers, threatening to erase his memories if he refused. Akitsu agreed to speak, although he claimed he could defend himself. Jinta emphasized that Akitsu had too many tricks, but Akitsu was surprised since Jinta hadn't even shown his true power yet. He asked Jinta to remove the dogs, fearing them. Jinta complied, which made Akitsu laugh, thinking him naive, but Jinta trusted his words. Akitsu claimed others had lied, but he hadn't. He asked for his dogs back and promised not to run. Picking them up, he said he wouldn't tire them out again. When Jinta asked about this, Akitsu explained that the figures were just papier-mâché, infused with emotions. Emotions, especially negative ones, could become demons, so it wasn't strange for objects to come to life. This was known as Tsukumagami. He described himself as a spiritual medium controlling magical creatures, but with Tsukumami instead. Jinta thought Akitsu came from an exorcist family, but Akitsu denied it. Famous exorcists like Nagumo of the Cursor and Kakami of the Magadama inherited their techniques by blood, but Akitsu followed a school-based method. Originally, Sumiguro Akitsu was a skilled craftsman, and everything he created developed its own spirit, not metaphorically, but literally. Eventually, he invented a technique to turn these into Tsukumomi controllable beings. After Sumiguro's death, his teachings passed to his students, and Akitsu became the 3rd successor. The name Tsukumomi was known more for the craftsmanship than spirit use. When Jinta asked about his name and the kanzushi he gave Natsu, Akitsu recalled that he had given it to someone rather than sold it. This didn't matter to Jinta. He wanted to know why Natsu had changed upon wearing it and what the story behind it was. To Akitsu, it was just an ordinary hairpin. But then he remembered something and told Jinta he could help solve her problem if Jinta moved his sword away. Though doubtful, Jinta agreed, thinking he had no choice but to believe him, whether Akitsu was lying or not. He lowered his sword and went to Natsu. When Natsu saw him, she went to him and greeted him, saying she had been waiting because he asked her to. He apologized for being late, but Natsu said she always knew he would return to her in the end. Then Jinta asked her to go out, and they wandered around the village at night. Jinta stopped at the snowy willow trees, whose flowers bloom in spring like snow. Natsu marveled at how he knew everything and called him her dear brother. But Jinta didn't like the term. It made him feel weak and exposed, which he hated. He told her he had wanted to protect him, but failed. The promise he made on that rainy night was broken easily, and he had failed to be her loving brother until the end. He said he was no longer Jinta, and when it came to her and Suzune, he wasn't just an older brother. But Natsu objected. She let go of his hands and asked why a bird needed a reason to sleep near a flower, saying the same applied to siblings. No matter the circumstances, their bond couldn't be broken. After many moons, she had finally found her way back to him, and she had no doubt he would also find a path that brings him happiness. Life was a long journey to find where one's feelings belong. Though Jinta didn't believe he could find that place, Natsu assured him that was the very purpose of life. He wasn't convinced, but thanked her for listening to his complaint. Then he approached her to return her to her other half, which made Natsu marvel and cry. Jinta remembered Akitsu had told him to give Natsu the Koge, so she would return to her nature. She took the Koge from him and placed it with the kanzushi, which caused a bird to appear and fly away. Then Natsu lost consciousness. Akitsu appeared and congratulated Jinta, telling him it had worked perfectly. By the river, Akitsu explained the word koge, a kanji that means scratcher. It's a hair tool used to style and scratch the head without ruining the hairstyle, traditionally used by ladies and boys, while men kept it next to their swords. It was symbolic, like an older brother to a younger sister. All these kai were made by Sumaguro, and since Jinta had the sister piece to this pin, Akitsu guessed that was why Natsu called him dear brother. But Jinta realized the kanzushi carried lingering emotions from its previous owner, and thought Natsu had been overtaken by those feelings, making her seek a dear brother. Akitsu laughed, saying it sounded like something from a play. It seemed those two pieces were created as a pair. Akitsu noticed wisteria leaves falling, signaling the arrival of a bell's call. He quoted a poem from the many, saying Sumiguro was quite the joker. Jinta recalled Natsu's words, that the bell hairpins were always searching for wisteria flowers, and realized strange things really do happen in life. But to Akitsu, the important thing was that the bell had returned to its brother and all ended well. When Jinta asked where the bell flew, Akitsu oddly answered, over there, which surprised Jinta. Then Akitsu explained, it flew toward the distant heavens beyond the seas, where the feelings of home call it. The only way to know its location would be to ask the bell itself. But in any case, feelings always return to where they belong, and that's what Akitsu believed. Jinta hoped that was true. As Akitsu prepared to leave, Jinta stopped him, saying he should ask permission, and even threatened him, reminding him that he was a demon in a human body. But Akitsu didn't care. He said Jinta was a loyal friend, not a danger to anyone, and that he was just a craftsman. He only kills demons when asked, and only fights those who threaten him. He doesn't harm demons that do no wrong. Before leaving, he told Jinta that in the end, they are all demons, so they all fall under the kind Jinta hunts. No matter how kind or loyal or how close to humans they are, that truth doesn't change. Jinta understood this. Akitsu was pleased and bid him farewell. The next day, at the Sedana restaurant, Zenji was happy that Natsu had returned to her true self, but wondered why she seemed sad. Afu understood. Natsu still had clear memories of what had happened. Zenji teased her, mimicking her spoiled speech, which embarrassed her and made her angry. Then Sedana offered Natsu a drink on the house, which cheered her up, and she thanked him. However, she asked Sedana about Jinta, who hadn't shown up that day. Sedana asked if she was ready to transform again in an instant, but Natsu said she was content just being a little bird for now, and wondered how she would face it all from now on. We then moved to Jinta, who encounters Yutaka during the day, a surprise since she typically isn't active at that hour. He was taken aback that she was out looking for men at such a time. Yutaka tried to express concern for him, but Jinta, true to form, responded rudely. Still, Yutaka invited him to chat about a rumor that had been going around, thinking a bit of gossip might lighten his mood or distract him. As they talked, Jinta suddenly heard the sound of a bell ringing from somewhere nearby. He asked Yutaka if she could hear it too. She said she had actually heard the same bell earlier in the morning. It had disturbed her sleep and continued to ring loudly, which is why she was now outside. Even now, she said, it was screaming nearby. Yutaka thought it could be a demon's doing, but Jinta disagreed. He said it wasn't a demon, it was simply a bell that had found its way through the night and come to rest beside a flower. Then, in 2009, the scene shifts to the Atsukimi Institute, where Maka was cleaning with her mother. Maka wasn't happy. She felt shy and embarrassed that her friend might see her doing chores. Her mother gently reminded her that this was their duty as women born in this temple lineage. She shared that she had been given two sacred responsibilities. One was to add a kanji to her daughter's name, and the other was to preserve the Ecchi lineage from extinction. Maka's grandmother had strictly emphasized the importance of passing down these traditions, no matter how difficult life became. They must be passed on because they were rooted in the heart. Their purpose was to preserve hope. That's why all the women in their family bore the syllable ya in their names. Though the original feelings and intent behind the traditions may have faded, they still had a place to return to. Now it was Maka's turn to be clear about her own feelings. Then her mother left to prepare dinner. Soon after, a man approached Maka and asked if this was the Ecchi temple. Maka replied yes, but explained that they now called it Atsukimi, although she didn't know why. She mentioned that the rule about the name came from the Jinta temple. The man then asked her to repeat the temple's name. She replied that it was called Jinta, which caused the man to burst into tears, surprising Maka. He turned and left. Maka, watching him go, called after him, asking if he had a question, but she realized she had already answered it. She had said exactly what he needed to hear. Later, Maka returned to school and felt joy being with her friend. But she would see that same man again, the one who had come to her at the temple, his presence lingering like an unanswered prayer. Sometime later, in the auditorium of a high school, students gathered in full to enjoy a classic stage play titled The Courtesan on a Rainy Night. This play was based on the diaries of Edawira courtesans, often called yataka in the context of old society. Many courtesans came from samurai or merchant families who had fallen into difficult circumstances due to family misfortune, and keeping diaries became a common way for them to record their lives. The performance began with a solemn narration about a samurai who was arranged to marry in order to save his declining family. However, the woman he was to wed, daughter of a samurai family, appeared so indifferent that the samurai felt hurt and canceled the engagement. The woman's family slowly fell apart, her father died in despair, and her mother was lost in endless grief. The heroine realized there was never a true bond between them, and when no one called her by name anymore, she felt no need to cling to that name. This mood blended with the stage setting as the curtain gradually rose, revealing the onset of a rainy night. On that rainy night, Miura Naotsugu happened to shelter from the rain with a courtesan. His first impression was a strong attraction to her appearance and aura. However, the woman, an experienced courtesan, remained calm, which confused Naotsugu and led him to quickly apologize. Seeing the rain hadn't stopped, she decided to leave. But before going, Naotsugu called her back to ask her name. She introduced herself as Yataka, believing the simple name was enough to be remembered. Her image, with a faint smile in the night, made Naotsugu feel as if he had just met someone from another world. That same rainy night, Naotsugu noticed a figure appearing near them. Yataka's reaction showed it was an old acquaintance, and her gaze carried a mix of familiarity and unmistakable fear. This detail made Naotsugu begin to suspect a complicated relationship between them. The next morning, Naotsugu went to the familiar noodle shop to find Jinta. During their conversation, Jinta recalled the heavy rain the night before and talked about the drinking party at the Asa Tavern. They both drank quite a lot, and Jinta was so tireless that Afu had to remind him to slow down. Still, it was a joyful evening until they parted ways and met the heavy rain. Naotsugu also asked about Jinta's earlier mention of looking for work. Jinta confirmed and added that since rumors about demons were spreading, he would return to Akusa that night to investigate under the night's shadow. Naotsugu went back to the place where he had sheltered from the rain before, seemingly drawn back by some unknown feeling, unsure of what he expected there. Yataka appeared again with her familiar umbrella, and their second meeting took place in a quiet, contemplative atmosphere. Naotsugu was still haunted by the mysterious figure from before. When he brought it up, Yatika simply said it was an old acquaintance and advised him not to concern himself with the private matters of a courtesan. Faced with her cautious attitude, Naotsugu was embarrassed and admitted the real reason he returned was because he hoped to see her again. Though initially playful, Yatika soon recognized the sincerity in the young man's eyes, which made her reflect on the strange person. Not long after, the mysterious figure reappeared, their face unmistakable. Yatika's eyes showed both familiarity and clear fear. Her shoulders trembled slightly, and Naotsugu instinctively stepped forward to shield her. That action immediately made the figure disappear, restoring peace to the space. The next morning, Jinto arrived at the noodle shop with a heavy heart. He shared that he had just missed a rare opportunity to capture a demon, creatures that only appeared on rainy nights. This failure left him with lingering regret. At that moment, Naotsugu also entered, seeking advice from Jinta and Afu about love. He confessed he had fallen for a woman, surprising everyone, especially Zenji, who had thought Naotsugu's visit after the drinking party was just for casual fun. It turned out Naotsugu truly wanted to impress that woman by any means. Zenji quickly hatched a plan for a heroic rescue act, a staged assault on Yatika to give Naotsugu a chance to step in. But the idea was soon dismissed as cliché and unrealistic. Instead, the shop owner gave sincere advice. Winning someone's heart required time and mutual understanding. He shared his own grandfather's example, who spent decades pursuing true love. Naotsugu listened attentively and resolved to wait patiently. He stood in the same place, hoping one day the girl would approach him. Before leaving, he thanked everyone. The mood suddenly darkened when Afu mentioned something strange. According to Naotsugu and Jinta, both had experienced events on rainy nights, but in reality, those days had been completely clear, without a single drop of rain. The story shifted to Yatika's perspective, the courtesan whose fate was wrapped in the past and whose lineage traced back to samurai. She reflected that humans only perceive what's before their eyes, but absence of sight doesn't mean absence of existence. Despite knowing this, tonight she stood waiting in an imagined rain at the old garden, only to be disappointed when Naotsugu didn't appear. Old memories flooded back with the cold wind. In Yatika's heart, the one thing she couldn't let go was her brother, who had loved her like a blood sister. The cherished keepsake, a phoenix-shaped hairpin he gave her, was now lost, leaving an unfillable void. Just then, the figure from the past suddenly appeared before her, accompanied by a faint sound like a call from the afterlife. For a moment, she told herself it was impossible, but the feeling was too clear. A vague warning echoed, urging her not to look, but it was too late. Naotsugu appeared hurriedly, asking about her condition. Upon seeing her trembling, she firmly asserted she had seen the person from her past, the one her heart never forgot. Naotsugu gradually realized this place was truly haunted by spiritual energy, causing people to see illusions. The figure Yatika recognized was likely not her old companion, but a malevolent entity. He drew his sword and faced the enemy in a tense battle. Though lacking extraordinary power like Jinta, Naotsugu's swordsmanship was enough to hold his ground. But the final strike came from Jinta, who unexpectedly appeared and defeated the demon. Yatika rushed to Naotsugu's side, worried and moved by his bravery. Jinta took the opportunity to explain that the creature was not a full demon, but a half-formed spirit born from unresolved grudges. It had the power to reflect hidden pain in those it faced. This explained why Yatika saw her past companion and why Naotsugu saw his brother. As the stage curtain fell, the audience was brought back to the present. Mazuka had fallen asleep throughout the performance. Her close friend promised to help finish the reflection paper. In response, Mazuka gave her a chocolate bar as thanks. The next afternoon, Karo brought the essay to Mazuka, meeting Jinta, the reincarnated figure. Karo took the chance to share impressions of the play. He was dissatisfied that Jinta's character was portrayed as weak, though he was the one who had defeated the demon. But since Yatika loved Naotsugu, it made sense she would idealize her lover's image. Moreover, Karo was particularly impressed by the character Yatika. Even though she knew her husband's friend was a demon, she remained silent and chose to hide the truth. The whole group of classmates was captivated and decided to find the original novel to read more. One even expressed a wish to personally read Yatika's diary lines to better understand how she viewed the samurai from long ago. Ginta continued to kill demons and noticed that his sword was getting more stained with blood each time, but he realized it was actually his heart that was truly stained. Then Ginta went to the client who had asked him to kill the demon and received his reward. The client thanked Ginta for his efforts and told him that the snow was as beautiful as the moon in autumn and the flowers in spring. He added that his boss had enjoyed slices of nature's elegance while indulging in drink, and that he planned to honor his memory by building a tomb and pouring a bottle of his favorite wine. Then he bid Ginta farewell. After that, Ginta went home to rest. The next day, he went shopping with Afu, who told him that all the palace servants and the samurai who guarded it had suddenly disappeared. Ginta confirmed this and told her that afterward, a dozen or so demons had taken it as their lair. Afu thought it had been a busy night for Ginta and asked him to carry the bags for her so he wouldn't feel tired, but Ginta refused, telling her that today was a celebration. Then they were drawn to a man selling sake, who was marketing it wonderfully, attracting a crowd. They considered buying from him, but Ginta refused because he couldn't handle the crowd, and they left. Then we move on to Sadana's store. Zenji arrived, and Natsu and Ginta were waiting for him, but he was late because the store was crowded. Natsu told him that this party was for him, so he shouldn't be late, and that they were now waiting for Miura. Miura arrived and apologized for being late, and Afu told them they would begin now. Zenji started talking, and when he spoke about trivial things, Natsu asked him to skip it and speak quickly. Then Ginta announced that he had been promoted to senior clerk in Sugaya City, and that he appreciated everyone's presence to celebrate. He expressed his gratitude, and Afu and Miura congratulated him, asking him to help Mr. Juizao as best he could. Zenji confirmed that he would and that he would make Sugaya the biggest store in the city. Miura was sure Zenji would succeed, and Zenji declared he would be one of the greatest clerks in history. Natsu thought he was full of hot air, but Zenji asked her to let him enjoy the party tonight. Then Sadana came to them and asked them to stop fighting and offered food, which surprised Zenji. Sadana said a day like this required more than ordinary soba and congratulated him on the promotion. Zenji thanked Sadana, and Afu didn't forget the drinks and poured some for him. Zenji was surprised by how special the drink was and asked her how she got it, but Ginta was the one who bought it. Ginta told him it was a special occasion, which made Zenji happy and thankful. He asked everyone to eat before it got cold, and they celebrated while eating. Then Zenji remembered something and brought out a bottle of new sake his boss drank every night. He thought today was the right day to share it. Ginta recognized the sake, and Zenji said it should be served cold. Afu offered him a cup to pour into, but Natsu took the bottle from Zenji and poured it herself, saying he was the star of the party. He was surprised by the luck of the day, feeling extremely happy, and told her that living to old age was worth it. Natsu told him he wasn't that old yet, but he said it spiritually. He joked that he couldn't believe she used to be a rude child, now pouring him sake. Natsu said she'd pretend not to hear that, and he quickly apologized. Then Zenji drank and immediately spat it out. It was very salty, smelled terrible, and was undrinkable. Miura poured him another cup, but it wasn't good either, which Zenji felt ruined the party. He offered some to Ginta, who thought it was a bit weak but not bad. Natsu asked if this was the sake people were raving about. Zenji confirmed that it was what his boss drank. Then Sadana brought out more drinks, and Natsu commented that Zenji was lucky because everyone was so kind. Ginta drank more, and we moved to his home. Later, Ginta left and went to the bridge, where he met a prostitute. She commented that the weather was cold as snow, and he said he was looking for work. She thought he was so desperate he couldn't even talk to her, then laughed, saying she was joking. She wasn't sure she could lead him to work, but many strange stories were spreading, like a bedridden son replaced by a demon, or demons hiding under a bridge, or a wandering woman at night. She said, "That's a lot, isn't it?" She added that these troubled times might just be anxiety, and even 4 cups of black tea weren't enough to sleep. Ginta said, "You mean the foreign ships in Yura?" The prostitute replied that the emperor was acting like a puppy in front of the Americans. Ginta said evil spreads when society falls into chaos. She agreed and told him about a sake selling wildly, perhaps because people wanted to drink their worries away. She said it tasted like poison that would send you to heaven. Ginta asked her to investigate that sake for him. She wondered if there was bad news, but he hadn't seen anything yet and hoped it was nothing. She agreed, and he thanked her, but warned her to stay safe, joking that Natsu would kill him if anything happened to her. She laughed, not realizing he was joking, and noted the snow on her hand and how cold it was. Later, Natsu came to Ginta's house and greeted him. Ginta was surprised she found him, but Afu had directed her. She had guessed he lived nearby and mentioned he was only a stone's throw from Kihi. She told him he should have said something. They weren't strangers after all. Natsu seemed annoyed. When Natsu heard Ginta's neighbors shouting, she asked who they were. Ginta explained it was the neighboring family, likely the father was in another sake fit in the middle of the night. He then asked what brought her over. She said she needed his help. Zenji had been skipping work and was now drunk in a bar in Nihonbashi. Ginta was surprised. They had just celebrated his promotion, but Natsu confirmed it happened the next day, and all Zenji did now was drink. Her father was ready to consider this the last straw. She asked Ginta to accompany her as a bodyguard, even offering to pay him. Ginta refused the payment and confirmed the location. They headed to Nihonbashi, where the bar reeked of booze. Inside, Natsu approached Zenji, who was clearly drunk. When she scolded him, Zenji dismissed her and rudely suggested she was just frustrated because she was single, offering to set her up and insulting her further. Natsu, furious, nearly attacked him, but Ginta stopped her. Zenji also insulted Ginta, calling him a failed demon slayer. Then, in his drunkenness, he attacked Ginta, who dodged and struck back, knocking Zenji down. Ginta chastised him, saying that sake is a gift from heaven, but using violence over it is shameful. Just then, the mood soured. A drunk showed his sword, terrifying Natsu. The bar erupted into chaos as they attacked Ginta, throwing bottles, which he blocked to protect Natsu. As more drunks lunged, a mysterious palm-like force emerged and repelled one of them. Another was repelled with the back of Ginta's sword. Natsu tried to wake Zenji, but he was unconscious. Suddenly, Akitsu appeared, helping fend off the attackers. He remarked that Ginta hadn't changed. Ginta thanked him, saying it had been a long time, and Akitsu reminded him he was the third. Later, at Ginta's house, Zenji woke up. Natsu offered him a drink. Zenji apologized profusely, but Natsu told him she didn't need excuses. She acknowledged his hurtful words, but said what mattered was that he valued her deep down. She took his hand and told him not to dwell on it. She wasn't naive enough to get mad over drunken rambling. Still, Zenji insisted on apologizing, saying the sake made him feel high but not satisfied, and seeing her had made him strangely angry, especially about Ginta. Just then, Zenji's superior appeared. Hearing of his drunken outburst, he warned it was his last chance. Zenji wondered what to do now, but Natsu told him the answer was simple: work hard and make up for it. Later, Akitsu and Ginta sat at his house. Akitsu, too, heard the neighbors fighting. He asked how famous Ginta was, and Ginta admitted he was somewhat known. Ginta asked why Akitsu had been near the bar, and Akitsu explained strange things were happening in Kyoto. A man stabbed his brother after drinking strange sake. More violent crimes followed, all tied to the same sake brand from Eito. It was expensive, smelled odd, and seemed to affect behavior. They went for a walk, and Ginta asked if there was other evidence. Akitsu only mentioned sightings of a strange woman at every incident, not fitting a seller's profile, but still suspicious. At the sake shop, they saw blood outside. Inside, it was chaos. The owner was dead. Akitsu noted that the clean area in the dust indicated frequent activity. The shop had been looted, but they'd taken only a specific sake, suggesting intent. Ginta wondered if it was truly worth killing for. Akitsu argued this sake seemed to push people to extremes, stripping inhibitions entirely. As they investigated, two demons appeared. Ginta and Akitsu fought side by side and killed them. Ginta admired Akitsu's weapon, and Akitsu said maybe the demons were drawn by the scent of the sake. Ginta doubted that theory, but they agreed something was very wrong. Outside, snow continued to fall heavier than before. Akitsu remarked that the snow deepened every night, and this gave Ginta a bad feeling.